Not that long ago, I was a rising star in corporate America, the big guy on his way, the hot new commodity. And about 17 years into what ended up being a 21-year career, I got the big promotion, multiple hundred thousands of dollars a year in salary, six-figure bonus, six figures in equity, vesting and granted every single year. And at that point, at that 17-year mark, I also met with the most resistance I ever had in my career. I had a boss that didn't like me. My new boss wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan of hers either. And we just butted heads. Everything was friction. Everything was tough. Everything was toxic. And it culminated in a conversation I'll never forget where she said, "Hey, look, I can't deny your success. I see your results, but here's a warning for your performance." And in that moment, I guess I was confronted for the first time with something I never had been before, which is, boy, I'm replaceable. I'm not as, I guess, leverage as I thought I was. The network I had built, the goodwill I had established over 17 years up to that point, all the advocates, all the allies, they weren't there for me. So it led to a question for me, which was, if I don't know my own value, how do I create my own value when I've always allowed a job to do that? And really, the bigger question I think for today that I want to really focus in on is for all of us in a world that is changing dramatically with all the technological advancements and everything else, where the future is likely not jobs or being a solopreneur, how do we create our own value? Personal branding to me is something I've invested in over the last 7, 8 years heavily. And I believe for the foreseeable future, it's the intellectual property that everyone needs to at least consider investing in to have their own, I guess, value statement that they can utilize. Gary Vaynerchuk is very famously calls your personal brand your moat. It's the protection you build around yourself so that you can stand in that and again leverage your own brand. The the business side of this, I would say, is Goldman Sachs projected that the creator economy will go to a half a trillion dollars by 2027, just next year. And projections are that the creator economy will reach $1 trillion or more by 2032. It is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So, what I want to do today is talk a little bit about how do you leverage that? How do you create that? What do you do if you're considering creating and utilizing a personal brand? And I want to emphasize personal brand. Your personal brand is who you are. Your business, the product you sell, the real estate that you're hawking, whatever it might be, that's what you do. We're not talking about you, the realtor, or you, the client services person. We're talking about you, truly you. Today, I want to share three things that I think you all can utilize starting today in order to build your personal brand. So, I know we don't like to have phones out, pay attention, but I'd love for you to get your phone out to take some notes as I give you three questions to consider and how to build an effective and growing personal brand. The first element of a personal brand is this: what do you stand for? What do you stand against? Either one. Authentically, that creates emotion. What do you stand for or against? Authentically, that creates emotion. And it's important that all of that is considered. You can inauthentically create content around your brand that gets people upset, angry, but it's not authentic. That doesn't have staying power. Or similarly, you can have authentic content, but it doesn't generate emotion. So if you stand against people being in their own way, it's authentic, but it's boring. So when you determine what you stand for or against authentically, that creates emotion. You've got the essence and the beginnings of a brand. If you watch my content, and I hope you all do, I talk a lot about life here. I've lived here for a few years, and I've found such beauty in the Dominican Republic. I found an amazing life, and my wife and I decided we want to raise our family here. So I am the one that will get on and rail against any negative perceptions that are put out there about DR, especially when they're completely untrue. That's something I stand against authentically. And with my audience, it creates a lot of emotion. First element of a personal brand. What do you stand for? What do you stand against? Authentically, that creates emotion. Once you've determined that, the second step of creating a great personal brand is what is your unique advantage? Not an advantage, your unique advantage. I have some advantages in the content I talk about. I've invested in real estate. I quit a big job making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. I've done those things. Those are advantages that I can bring into my content, but they're not that unique. Now, if I stood out there on YouTube, Instagram, wherever, and created content saying, hey, this is what's great about DR, or this is what's great about Punta Cana, and I'm doing it on a slideshow in my office, well, a guy in Iowa can do that, or Germany, or Russia. My unique advantage is I'm actually here. So I can display that unique advantage by simply being out around, showing the life that is what I have here in the Dominican Republic. So, what is your unique advantage is the second step to an incredible personal brand, which leads me to the third and final step. Once you've determined what you stand for or against authentically, that creates emotion, and you understand your unique advantage within that, the third thing is who do you serve? If you start that sentence with anybody who, then you're not being specific enough. Who you serve should be a very specific individual or a very specific type of person. My example, I serve higher income male Dominican diaspora between 35 and 55. That's my core audience. That's my go-to. That's who watches what I do. Because I know what I stand for or against, because I have my unique advantage clear and I know who I serve, my content can speak to that. I don't have to speak about minimalist living because that's not what my audience wants. I can use inside language because my audience understands that. But what's crazy about when you create content directed at a very specific audience, the reason why it's so powerful is when you get that audience, you actually get the entirety of the audience. My most ardent supporters, the people that absolutely, when they see me, they want a selfie or whatever, are not the middle aged Dominican man that's doing well in the United States or Canada. It's his wife. She loves her husband so much that when she sees me, she thinks this guy would speak to my husband. This is exactly what my husband needs. Because we all know, as husbands, we don't listen to our wives. But maybe they'll listen to some dude on YouTube, is the calculus. When you build a personal brand, when you leverage who you are to put it out into the world, whatever it is you do is easily able to be associated to it. So if you are, again, selling real estate right now, creating real estate content is fine, but that's marketing. Personal brand is going out and saying, I love gastronomy. I love restaurants. I'm passionate about this or that. Those people, when they come to you, they'll buy your real estate. They'll buy your product. They'll become your consulting client, whatever it is that you're doing at that given time, which can change. Personal brands are long lasting. Product or business brands are short term. That's what's key. So I guess my thesis is for all of you as I wrap up, who you are is important. How you give that to the world is the next great economy. And for any of you who have been thinking about how do I, should I, I've been thinking about it. Which platform? Do I do video? Do I type it out? Do I do text? All of those things. What I would say is be you, follow the formula I just gave you, and you can have a significant brand that lasts you forever and makes you truly, truly, truly irreplaceable. Thank you.